it's the world of 10,000 things. Everyone's obsessed with it. And you can go from one thing to another until you die, and just new stimuli, new stimuli, new stimuli. But you're doing the same thing over and over. It's just looping. There's one thing important in you, and you can loop for your whole life. And I was doing that, and I was good at it. But it kept landing back in the same spot. Oh, here I am again, suffering, not happy, not content. Wondering what's missing. There's something missing. I don't know, and I wanted to find what was missing. That's what it is. That was the yearning all along, to find what I'm talking about here. And it's a yearning in everybody. It's just, is it activated, and how strong is it? And the yearning shows up as pleasure seeking, or just trying to keep yourself stimulated, or drinking alcohol, or whatever else. But the true seeking of what all that is narrowing down to is, what am I really? Is what is actually being sought. You're seeking yourself. Capital S self. The small self, the identity separated, is seeking the capital self, the big self, the one self, the unity consciousness. Typical Westerner. I've just learned something new. Here it is. Why don't I have a degree in it yet? It's been 2 weeks already. Right? So why don't you look at it more as a degree, can we say? And it's going to take some time to drop deeper in and understand the lattice work and the matrix, and you're untangling from it. And it doesn't mean it can't be really quick. It doesn't have to be 4 years. You might have an incredible discovery and it drops down to 3 months and 6 months, but you don't know. But you're just going to assume it's a 4 year, but with the option of it me suddenly having an epiphany and I have the answer. No, just accept you're a beginner. Have beginner mind. I'm beginning. I'm learning. Why would I have the answer here? The key factor in success in this game is receptivity. It really is about receptivity, and it's so important that in all your Buddha statues you see, is the Buddhas always have giant ears. And that represents receptivity and the openness to allow the information in. And that receptivity that's the starting point of it, but it actually goes all the way through the whole process, all the way. Not just on that surface level, but it starts on that surface level of receptivity and big ears and small mind. Less mind, less mind, less mind, big ears, and listen, really try to absorb what's being said. That's how important it is, and how big a problem it is for people coming into this sort of work, that they, even in all the statues you'll see of a Buddha, is with big ears. So important. If you want to progress fast, that's the way. Receptivity. Listen, really listen. The problem with the mind is well, one of the sneaky things the mind does is, because I got caught by it lots of times. So I'd go to Satsang, then I'd go away and come back to my work schedule. And I'd always go back thinking, yep, I've held the depth I left at. And I'd be like, yeah, got it. And I'd be in the room, and then, a day or two later, because I guess I would have given off that vibe, and people would call me out and say, you're actually, you've fallen back a fair bit, right? What do you mean? Because I was so sure, right? And you've fallen back. You're not where you were. And it was just so perplexing to me, because I was so sure that I'd done so much work and so much to hold it, but I kept falling back. You know what I mean? And then I realized, the mind you just incrementally drop back, and you don't know it's happening. So it happens like a kid growing. You don't see it if you're around them all the time. And it's sort of like that. You know what I mean? And then so the mind's always telling you that. So I realized, my mind's just telling me stories. It's not letting me see what's actually happening, because and you're looking through it, so you can't tell. It's just, it's getting a little bit darker, but you can't tell because it happens so slowly. You know what I mean? So it's just something to watch out for too, and just learning not to trust the mind. Right? The mind's everybody's biggest torturer in 99.9% of humanity. What we say to ourselves and what it does to us, and leads us into these terrible situations so often. And sometimes lifelong terrible situations, just absolutely ruthlessly not caring about your actual true well-being. It's not your friend, but because you're so used to the noise and you think it's you and it sounds like your voice, you'll follow it everywhere. And that's a real problem. And a lot of spirituality is, I just caught the naughty voice. Ha, got you this time. And the same voice is telling you about the naughty voice. It's just come around the back door. So everyone's a spiritual guru, but that's actually just the voice shape-shifting. It's the same shit. So the true language is silence. And what is here is silence in words. And this game is only about collecting knowledge until you have enough information to know that it's all about silence. And now, and stillness. Then the knowledge can be dropped. You can read Gita after Gita and self-help book after self-help, which doesn't make sense because the self is the ego, and the ego isn't going to help you. And all sorts of books. And you may get a little tip here or there, but ultimately it's silence and stillness is the goal. We've been taught to be educated, or we've been educated since a very young age, and it's all about gathering data, gathering the numbers, gathering the letters, gathering the words, gathering the paragraphs. And that's great, and it's wonderful, and it's very helpful. It's very helpful, very helpful. But in truth, it's about finding deep silence within you, what you are beyond the mind, but prior to the mind. What you are prior to the body, post-body, prior to mind, post-mind. What is that? As Nisargadatta said, who were you a year before your birth? This is what you're looking for. This is the permanent thing. Everything else is moving. Since sitting here and talking to you, a whole bunch of things have changed in my body. I'm slightly older. Changing. Everything's changing. Except one thing. And that's what you are. And it's finding that. And that's found in silence and stillness through the heart center. Not in more. The mind, translated into truth-ese, is more. Just wants more. And that's why I'm warning you or letting you know to consider what you need to know, what you don't need to know. You don't need to know anything to find out what you are. You don't need to have ever written a word, spoken a word. It's not an accumulation of more. That's what the mind wants. The mind's what's caused you all your problems. What does the deepest of your heart want? What's that deepest spot want? Does it want more knowledge? Does it need it? So people go and read wide literature, and then the mind, the ego, handpicks what you're going to hear, what you're going to understand. The spoken word is live. Anything else is dead. Written words are dead. They're dead. There's no life force in them. So you can get an idea of what's going on, but you may also get lost. And most do. And, I find tremendous value in exploring all the terrain. But I also got lost in some of it too, and misinterpreted it, or thought stuff was true that wasn't, and thought it was for me and wasn't. So I've had this direct experience, and it's getting, when a direct teacher knows you, or a living teacher knows you, they get to know your personality and what words are for you to unlock the cage that are just for you. Maybe some other people can get some help from it too, but they're for you. And this is very misunderstood, so lots of people read or watch stuff and get a generic understanding, but this isn't a generic field at all. To me, these are treasures when you find a closure, because I know very deeply that healing all your closures ends up in freedom, and not knowing where your closures are means freedom's limited. It may not even occur. So knowing where they are is super important. Yeah, I've used this before. Is you ever go down the beach yelling up when the big storms are gone through? And all the sand dunes and the steps are all washed away. And up along the edge of the sand dunes, there's all these rocks that get exposed that you never see normally. Right? It's like that. Oh, look, a storm, and it washed all that away. And now I can see those rocks. Those rocks are your ego, the thing that's holding you prisoner, the thing that's causing you discomfort. You found them. Don't lose them. Don't let the sand cover it up again. And that's how it is. You'll fix it at a level. So there's layers to everything. You'll fix it in a layer at a level and you think, oh, that's done. And then something else happens and it reoccurs. And you may heal that. And then there's another layer of it. At some point, it's done. At some point, it's done. And then there's no way around it. Like, just logically, if you're walking around with a bunch of rocks in your backpack, under the sand, and that's weight you're carrying. And then you're walking through your life with that weight. And there's no magical spiritual progress that bypasses that healing. If there's a magic way of doing it, it's being there completely with it. That's as good as you're going to get. You can make really, really poor decisions from lack of clarity, and you can head into fear and make fearful decisions, which can cause you a lot of discomfort over the long term, etc., etc. So a lot of the work we do here is about getting, maintaining clarity. Clarity is a bedrock of awakening or a bedrock of discovering what you are. The two things that I came back to after listening to one of my teachers endlessly and trying to sum it back to the simplest was the bedrocks are clarity and the maturity. You got to be a man or a woman, and you need to have clarity to act correctly from that space. So clarity and maturity are your foundations. They really are. And if you're missing either of those, it's going to be a very tricky life. It's going to be a very difficult life. And that's why we have so much emphasis around clearing practices and staying clear, not overusing the mind and fogging yourself out. The fog, they call it brain fog, mind fog. It's really, this is the modern world where everyone, I think, a lot of the Westerners think they've discovered something new. It's called tamasic energy, and the Hindus have known about it for thousands of years, as have the Buddhas. It's old knowledge. They call it brain fog these days, and everyone thinks they found something. It's been around a very long time. So we were always clearing that from our system so we can stay fresh and see things as they are and not distorted, like we're wearing various shades of glasses over the top of each other and then trying to decipher the world and then take action from that deciphering and that confusion. How do you do that? You have to stay mature, you stay centered, you stay clear, and you don't go into emotionality. Once you head into emotionality, you're screwed. What's emotion? Energy, motion, energy and motion. You can have feelings, but you don't have to add your mind programming to it and create an emotion that's basically a suffering. It's unnecessary. It's where your problems are going to arise. Well, the key point you were saying in there, which is super, super important, and it's a real sign of progress, and which is probably the first time I think I've heard you say it so far, which means you're heading to the next level now, is that you said, I didn't feel like it was me, it was just something moving through me. Mm. And that's the truth of the situation. That's the truth of all these situations. So, but you're starting to see that for yourself now. So now, now this miraculous thing can happen is where you can be detached from it and become the watcher. But, you're probably going to get caught again, right? But you've had a moment there that you can now recall from your own direct experience and not from my words or somebody else's words, saying that you had that direct understanding now, which is a very different thing. It's the description of the taste of sugar or the taste of sugar, right? Very different. A good question. A big part of cultivating the soil, probably if you were to put it into a couple of words, it'd be let go. Or one word, surrender. Like difficulties coming up, thoughts are attacking, body's squirming, uncomforted everywhere. Yeah, if you can just learn to really let go and accept now as it is completely, as if you wrote it, as if you wrote the script, like that level of surrender. So like you watch a movie from beginning to end and you're halfway through the movie and this is the scene. It's almost like it can't be any way. The movie's already laid down. It's already on the tape, you know. So you treat it that way. And you can have a surrender. It doesn't mean you're incapacitated, you let people steamroll you, any of that. It just means you're functioning at full capacity and awareness, moment to moment, even in difficulty, which is very not easy. It takes a lot of skill and practice and dedication. Over time, after on a path to awakening, if you're not going through deep grief and deep sadness and deep pain on various issues, the spirituality you're working with may be fraudulent, because in the unpeeling can come quite difficult moments. Dark clouds come by that are hidden in your system. Okay. So if your spirituality is all kumbaya and warm fuzzy noises and dancing around, and there's nothing coming up ever, you're on the wrong path. And that's the popular path, but it's not the path that takes you home. It's story time, it's dance time. It's dreams. They may be very sophisticated dreams, but they're dreams. A part of the process is a great upheavaling, a great emptying. And we have had so many traumatic experiences over the eons of horrible deaths and wonderful lives and very difficult lives and atrocities. And we've been through it all. The energy system has been through it all of our lineage. And if that's not healing, then it's still there. It doesn't just disappear because everything you're doing is warm and fuzzy, or you've got a head full of knowledge about spiritual events of history that it may or may not be true. That doesn't change that. That doesn't fix that. That doesn't heal that. You've just added another layer. And you're living in that little layer, in ignorance of what's hidden in your system. This is a lot of spiritual work. It's not even, it's just bullshit. That's why I teach you from the start to feel to heal and learn to stay still under duress. Like the mood of the warrior. You stay still under duress or you go down too. You have to stay surrendered. You have to be able to feel whatever's going on in your system. And if that means lots of tears, etc., so be it. Gently, gently. Because at every doorway, just using words or phase or dropping into the next level, is going to be a degree of uncomfortableness. There's going to be a degree of fear, perhaps a degree of mystery that you may or may not be welcoming to, and in your mastery of not being concerned with comfort and holding on to the old and the stale. Without this welcoming to uncomfortableness and being able to rest in it, you're trapped. For quite a while, you don't even notice big change. The only time you'll notice that you've actually made really good ground is that something that used to trigger you really badly doesn't trigger you, and it just goes straight through your mum or your dad or a friend or a colleague. And something that always triggers you happens, and there's nothing there. There's no response, and you just stand there, oh gosh, what's happened there? And that's when you know you're changing. One of the times you know you're changing, because there's no reaction. You're moving away from being a reactive being to being. Then slowly but surely a deeper sense of joy and surrender starts to happen, and more peace arises slowly, slowly, slowly. And occasionally, click, it just happens rapidly, occasionally. So just a reminder, we've just had somebody have a deep release and a deep healing of a very old trauma. It's a beautiful thing. But it's difficult to go through. But that's gone now. It's over. You know, that's over now. That's beautiful, isn't it? That's not being carried everywhere anymore. That's how it was for me. I'd have these deep releases. And my gosh, you just don't care whether you live or die. That passes, and then you're lighter, you're freer, you're wider. So that was always in my psyche, that as I played this game of untangling, the game of untangling, is that I knew in the midst of it that I knew this too shall pass, A, and B, after it, it's going to be a new depth of understanding, and the world's going to look a little bit different again. The colours are going to be a little bit brighter. My peripheral vision will be a bit deeper. My peace will be deeper. And that's what kept me going. That deep understanding that through experience, that I'm getting finer, I'm getting more and more refined. My way of seeing the world changed, my thoughts got cleaner. And one day I walked past the mirror and I saw myself in it, and instead of having that, I was like, oh, there's my friend. It was like I saw a friend in the mirror. It was like this warm world. Then I realized, oh, that's me. Wow, I'm my friend now. Yeah, I mean, before it was always like, oh, this isn't good enough, that's not good enough. And suddenly there's a friend in the mirror as I went past. I was like, oh, I'm making progress. This is working. Little things like that are very, very enriching and encouraging. Because once you become your good friend, boy, not in an egoic way, in the liking what you see, because you know the purification is happening, it's natural, and it's not this negative response. Because at times you can feel like you're not making progress, but let me promise you, you are, and it will show up sooner or later. It's just the event has to happen for you to see it.
I think it does mean give up on trying to be peaceful.
Yeah, give up on trying to be peaceful. That's just an experience.
Yeah.
Give up on it. What if it's just whatever's happening right now is it? So you have got it wrong. As in, it's not about being peaceful. It's about being here now with whatever is. That's it. And then you're craving for peace and holding that space. That's the highest risk you've got of losing it. Whatever you're talking about. You know, even just saying losing it and getting it and all that isn't actually true, but we have to communicate, I guess. But ultimately, you're it, and it's just inescapable. It's absolutely inescapable. It doesn't matter what you do and how unhappy you are, it's still there and you're still it.
And then in that...
I'd given up on awakening. I think Bish had too, and he was, happy life, same as me. I'll just get a happy life. I'll clean up as much of this mess as I can, and just going to be a happy life. There's no way I'm going to be able to wake up. I'd given up. So that giving up is quite an important step, I think, and I've heard it many times now. You know, and on all these words that I say, if they're heard immediately and completely absorbed, it's game over for the ego, but that's just not how it works. It's because we have hundreds of habit patterns overlaying each other that just keep happening because habits are hard to undo. So we continue to work and keep exploring and keep stay on the bus together. And at some point, the veil parts. And it happens like that. Just pop. Yeah. It's nothing like you thought it was. It's just very simple. Who's next? It was honestly like Transformers. I've told this before. Exactly like it. It was just so machine-like. I couldn't believe it. And to a thousandth, in engineering we deal with a thousandth of an inch, a micron, which is or 0.1 of a millimeter or 0.01 of a millimeter. Yeah, we'll go pretty fine sometimes, depending on what you're doing. If you're grinding metal, you can get it down to point really fine tolerances. And it was to that level, like 0.1 of a millimeter precision of just like 5 hydraulics. And like, it was like having like that, like just a precise machine. And I just dropped through. It was the most bizarre thing. That shocked me.